Hi there. So a couple of months ago, I did a first impressions review on the Ricoh GR4. Much to my surprise, a few people requested that I give a proper review on it as I'd used it for a couple of months and also show some photographs. So that's what this video is all about. So to give you an outline on this video, what I'll cover is first of all, things I don't like, the things that I do like, whether I recommend it, whether I think it's worth it, and at the end of it, I will show you a slideshow of photographs that I've taken over the last couple of months. Now, just a disclaimer up front, the photos I'm about to show you are purely just as a hobby, from a hobbyist standpoint, meaning I just did them for fun. So just a little bit about me. I don't normally do gear reviews at all. I'm actually a full-time professional photographer in Australia. I own this studio. We specialise in female portraiture. This is not my main YouTube channel. I've got another YouTube channel that concentrates on the business of photography. I'll put a link in the description if you want to check it out. But word of warning, it is purely about the business of photography. So if you're not into that, it's pretty boring, to be truthful. So I just did a 20-second recap on my last video. Basically, that video was a video about why I got this camera. The too long didn't read version of that is simply I simply wanted a camera that I could fit in my pocket, and I went on about that quite a lot in the last video. So I'll put a link in the description there as well. So if you want to check that out, you're more than welcome to. But honestly, it's just a first impressions video, and it's not a detailed video. Also, just worth mentioning, this video is not a technical video at all. With all new gear, there's always way too many technical videos about that. So if you're expecting that, I'd leave this video right now if I were you. Without further ado, I'll get into what I think about it. The first thing is I'll go in reverse of what most people do. I'll briefly talk about what I don't like about it. And to be truthful, not a great deal. I like nearly everything about it. It's more a wish list that I wish it had. And just to give a little bit of context, like I said in the last video, I've got no real history with Ricoh. This is actually the GR4 is my first exposure to it. I was unaware, to be truthful, that there seemed to be a whole cult surrounding the GR series and a whole bunch of enthusiasts. So I've come into this quite late. I guess the main thing I wish it had was just an inbuilt flash to complement the leaf shutter. I know you can buy that external flash, which I think I'll get because I do like that. I've always liked it actually, that sort of that blown out look of direct flash in some instances. But it'd be really nice if you just had a nice, simple, a little flash in there and you could add a proper flash on top if you wished. The viewfinder would be amazing, but obviously you'd have to sacrifice size for that, so that's probably not much point in that. But the only other thing I've really got against it is, I think it's called the ring cap, the thing that goes on here fell off. The first week I had it and I lost it, I don't know where it went. I checked that out online, apparently that happens to everyone. It's just slightly annoying that, for a replacement part that costs in Australia anyway, like 50 bucks, it would fall off so easily. I guess that's really my only real criticism of it so far. So that's all I've got to worry about. That's not too bad. So the next thing worth talking about, I think, is probably reliability. Since I've gotten this and since I did the review online, all I seem to see are GR4 reviews and stuff on social media. And there's a lot of commentary about how reliable it is. Now, I can only speak for myself. I got this, it seems like I got one of the very first batches, but so far so good. I haven't had a single problem. I've had no lockups. People have reported that the cover here for the lens gets jammed occasionally, but I haven't had anything like that. I haven't had to reboot it or pull the battery on it or anything like that. But in a nutshell, so far so good, no issues at all yet. Next thing is, it does feel very evolved to me. Now, I'll try and explain that. That's a difficult thing to explain. And like I said just before, I think, I haven't got the history with this camera, so I can't say that for sure. But I have used, for example, the Canon 5D cameras and now the Canon R cameras for my working life. And what I noticed with those cameras is each iteration was essentially improvements on the last one. There were these changes as they went through. And the longer it went, the smaller the improvements got because there wasn't a great deal to improve. And that's what this feels like to me. It just feels like a carefully thought out device with everything you need and nothing you don't need apart from the video, I guess. You could argue that, but I don't use it for video. I think that more long-standing users could comment better than I can on it. But just using it, going around it, like the way it's set up out of the box. So just for example, like, I've always, just myself personally, I've always had aperture here, I've always had shutter speed at the back, and on the older cameras before the 3 dial systems, I used to have ISO set up another way. So just picking this up out of the box felt very, very intuitive to me. And it also felt quite simple as well. It didn't feel super convoluted, in the menus and so on. Everything seemed pretty easy to figure out. Next thing I really love about it is how instant everything feels with this. It's really cool. Meaning, if I hit the on button as I'm pulling it out of my pocket, it's ready to go. Like just like that. It's that quick. It's really, I mean, it's just so fast. It's amazing. And all the dials seem completely immediate. There's no lag there. There's no lag with pushing the buttons, the scrolling up and down for ISO. Even, the touch screen, that the focusing, I heard somewhere that one of the complaints on the previous versions of these were the speed of focus. Excuse me. But, on single point focus, it seems really good. I haven't tried tracking focus at all. It's just not, I've never really used tracking focus other than when I used to do action photography. So yeah, but like I said, just the speed and the immediacy of this, honestly, just makes it a joy to use. The next thing is the one-handed operation, and this sort of, I think, falls in the category of being an evolved camera and having been developed over a period of generations of it. But like, I'm a reasonably big dude, and I've got quite big hands. I really have. And even with my big hands, it's quite clever. I don't know how they've managed to do it, but for example, I just don't seem to knock any of the buttons or dials when I'm pulling out of my pocket and doing stuff, which is fabulous. In comparison, I mentioned this in the last video. Excuse me, I had one of those Fuji X100 series. I think it was the 4. And what I found with that was, I don't, maybe it's probably just me, but I found myself, I'd always be knocking the buttons and knocking the exposure comp dial and that type of thing. And I'd pull it out and go to take a photo and be completely blown out or completely underexposed or whatever the case. But I find with this not to be the case. But the fact that I can, so easily do everything one-handed, turn it on, adjust shutter speed, adjust ISO at the front. And I do like the fact that your exposure comp and your ISO can be assigned to this rocker dial here, or whatever it's called. I've always, just speaking for myself personally, because I came through the DSLR era, I always did exposure by counting in third of stops, because everything's always been in third stop increments. So I find it really easy to go up a stop or down a stop and a third. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a stop and a third. 1, 2, 3, 4 up, back to where I was, and so on. Just all those little things make it a real joy to use. And I know that all cameras have got it these days. What I do like is I can be in manual mode with auto ISO and then override the auto ISO with this going up and down essentially as an exposure comp, which is obviously just affecting the ISO. But it just means that I can lock down, the creative settings, with aperture and with shutter speed, and then just concentrate on exposure. And another thing worth mentioning is I have found the metering to be excellent in this. It does a really good job of auto metering, so there's that as well. The other thing too is, now I've had it for a little while, is I can now really appreciate how nice this lens is. Like when I pull these photos off this camera and look at them on the computers, on the iMacs, on these 4K iMacs, you zoom into 100%. I'm astonished at the detail this little guy's pulling out. It's really quite remarkable. Next thing I really like about this is the JPEGs, the out-of-camera JPEGs. They're really, really nice. I don't know whether they're film sims or not. They look like film to me. They're really, really pretty. My favorite one is actually just the default one. I think that looks fantastic. But one thing I've been really enjoying doing is shooting in RAW. I stumbled across this by accident. Is shooting in RAW and then editing the photos in camera, because what that allows me to do is flick through let's call them film simulations for the sake of it. I don't know whether they are or not, but go through them, and then I can get an understanding of, if I'm in this scene, then that film simulation looks really good on that, or if we're indoors, that will look good here, and so on and so forth. And so I've been enjoying doing the editing in camera and then just copying to the computer on my phone and just using them immediately. So next thing to talk about is the app that goes on your phone, which looks like this, okay? It's the Ricoh app. And I can't believe I'm actually listing this as something I really love. Apps on cameras and iPads have been the bane in my existence for years, professionally. On the Canon series of cameras, for example, when I was using the 5D4s and the Canon Rs now, and those types of things, there's an app that goes on phones and iPads, and I used to quite enjoy using it for professional work when I went on location doing headshots. But what would happen is, it used to drive me mental, is that it would just stop working for no good reason. It'd almost be like you have to hold your mouth right to get the damn thing to work. It got to the point where it became so embarrassing and so annoying that I just stopped using it, and I resorted to either showing clients photos on the back of the camera, or on bigger jobs having it tethered to a laptop or an iMac or something like that. But the point being is it was super unreliable. So far, what I've found is for this app to be super reliable and connects every time and works every time, it's a bit slow. It's a bit slow to do it, a bit slow to process, but that's fine. I'll take reliability over speed any day of the week. So far, so good. So kudos to Ricoh for having an app that works. I think also from memory, when I had the Fuji cameras, I think their app sucked ass, to be honest with you. It was just absolutely awful. So fingers crossed that they don't update the camera or update the software and it breaks it. But so far, so good. I'm really enjoying using the app as well. Now, I know this is nothing new. I know that you Ricoh enthusiasts have been going on about this for years, but I'm really, really enjoying the snap focus. I do dunk, 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 especially for street photography, which I've got in some of the photos I've got. They're not great photos, like I mentioned at the beginning, but that'll give you an idea. But I'm really, really loving the snap focus feature on this. Another thing, and this is honestly just a personal thing, is I'm enjoying shooting at 28 mils. To me, I kind of like the wider lens. I've gotten just, for myself, I've gotten so used to shooting in the studio where I've got, really clean backgrounds, and to not have the luxury of like an 85 mil or 100 or 200 or whatever at a lower, lower aperture where you just obliterate the background to clean up your backgrounds. It's a challenge to shoot at 28 mil, and because it's only a 2.8 lens, everything's reasonably sharp anyway, especially because it's a crop sensor camera as well. And to me, it feels quite cinematic. It feels like the old Steven Spielberg movies, because my understanding is that, for example, he shot things like Indiana Jones at quite wide focal lengths between 20 and 35 mil ranges. And his thing was always, use a wider lens and get closer. And back when I used to photograph weddings and I used to use 35 mil lenses a lot, I used to really like that look. And because I've been, like I said, because I've been shooting in the studio for so long now, it's good to sort of get back to that. And I'm finding that even though I'm not really good at it, to be truthful, I need a lot more practice because I haven't practiced in years. But I'm really enjoying the challenge of that, of trying to have everything clean in the frame. And so that's been a really interesting challenge. And so as I'm walking around just doing my thing, I'm sort of going back to that old way of thinking and seeing. So it's been an interesting exercise for me, just personally, on seeing and at 28 mils. I think it's a really nice focal length personally. And finally, and this, again, another really personal thing is, for me, it's actually interesting. It's actually reignited my interest in casual photography, because I think I mentioned this in the other videos, because I spend all my time doing this professionally for a living. I get to the end of the day, I put my camera down, and that's sort of the end of it for me, photography. But, having this in my pocket and just carrying it around, and rather than using my phone, it sort of reminds me to do it. And that sounds like a really absurd thing to say. Like, I got a really nice camera, in a modern iPhone. But to have this handy and have it in your pocket where you can feel it and then you pull it out to use it, I find I shoot with a bit more intention. And so for me, in a really interesting way, it's kind of reignited my interest in photography as a hobby. So that's been really good. I've really enjoyed that. Next question is, would I recommend it? I'm not sure. I don't think it's a camera for everyone, obviously. I think you would only buy this if you understood specifically what it's for. I think I used this analogy in the last video. To me, it's almost like a 50mm lens. It does one thing and does it really well. I don't think it's for everyone. I think the image quality is beautiful. But then again, the image quality on all cameras these days is fabulous. I don't think that's really the reason you would buy it. I think personally the reason you buy it is for the portability, the ease of use, the unobtrusiveness. Actually, side note, like what I found when I was out and about in the city and doing stuff, having this out, just snapping away like this, honestly, no one took the slightest bit of notice of me at all. It's interesting, no one seems to care, even less so than when you're using a phone. So that was an interesting exercise. I really like it. I'd recommend it if if you're prepared to pay the money for it and you want something like this. But just to wrap this up, if you made it this far, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Hopefully you got something out of it. Like I said at the beginning somewhere, I'm not a professional reviewer. I'm not a gearhead. I'm not into tech stuff much these days. I just like stuff to work, and that's what I do. Again, I'll give you my same disclaimer as I gave at the beginning of the video. These aren't amazing photos. These are just things that have caught my eye, that have amused me, that I've taken for my own amusement. But it will give you an idea, if you're thinking about buying this, what the photos look like. These are all out of camera. And so hopefully we'll give you an idea. With that disclaimer out of the way, I hope you enjoyed the video, and here's a slideshow. Thank you for watching.